In 1984, James Cameron released what became Arnold Schwarzenegger's favorite film, The Terminator. If you haven't watched it, I'll provide an absolute butchered one-sentence summary. A cyborg is sent from the future to kill an absolute babe to prevent her from having a kid. This is all a fever dream from Cameron. Avatar, Titanic, and Aliens all came from the same crazy mind, which brings me to the idea for this video. Can you beat Fallout in Vegas as the Terminator? Given you that you can beat the game as a pacifist, all these challenge runs are as pointless as the triangle. You heard me right. That's why we're doing this run. The main kink for this run is simple. Try to be the Terminator to the best of my ability. Without further ado, let's see if we can peer pressure someone into fucking a cucumber.
You can't do that. Wrong.
I get out of bed like the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz after meeting Dorothy. Give myself the most attractive name I've ever seen, and try to make my character look like something straight from Skynet in a creation engine that is only slightly worse than Minecraft's. A high strength, endurance, and intelligence were selected for our main special stats due to the unspecified hyperalloy that makes up my frame and due to my high processing power. Guns, medicine, and survival were selected as tag skills. The Terminator frequently puts itself back together using common medical practices, and survival allows for in-game benefits that increase my ability to live longer. Guns were selected for, well, hopefully obvious reasons. Logan's Loophole and Skilled are often my go-to for challenge runs. This remains unchanged for this video as well. Canonally, T-800s don't consume food, although there were plans for it originally. That said, hardcore mode was enabled for this run. It makes things more difficult, and food and water really aren't that big of a deal to manage. If you do try this run for yourself, feel free to play it however you choose. In the background here, you'll have just seen me dump all my items into a sarsaparilla crate I like to use. In the movie, there's this really cool line that goes something like this.
Your clothes. Give them to me, now.
Fuck you!
We're going to try to replicate this scene by leaving Good Springs, getting through Hidden Valley, saying hi to Neil who fails to see through my disguise, passing through Racist Mountain, discovering El Dorado Substation, and making our way through the Mojave to get to Freeside. I drink some water before putting some pop rocks in a guy's pants and watching him reach for the sky. If you're curious as to where we got the grenade, the Van Graffs are superbly kind to half-naked men. Doing all of this allows me to throw on a leather jacket and start looking like the Terminator. Before I figured out what I was going to do next, I killed the dude with my fists and said hello to the Invisible Man. Ralph Ellison is a fantastic author. Not having enough caps to make it in this strip in any conventional ways, I walk into the invisible door next to Camp McCarran, experience whatever this is, and jump on the monorail. Victor, the hairy top that he is, gets a little too close for comfort, so I have a date with him. It turns out that he's into long walks on the beach, smoking whatever is available at the time, and utilizing heavy bondage. What are you doing, step robot? Meeting with the headquarters of Cybernet in this time period, Mr. House gives us the rundown for what I'm supposed to do to prevent the company's destruction in the future. The first objective, to retrieve the Platinum Chip. The Terminator has several scenes in the movie that involves a bunch of unflinching murder. Arnold even learned how to reload guns without looking at them to add to this effect. To prepare for this effect in Vegas, we're gonna need some weaponry. I grabbed the Snow Globe and Lucky 38 before turning it into Jane. 2,000 caps is nothing to scoff at, but looting the combat armor off of these bodies does net us several weapons and a bunch of ammo from Vendertron. While we are technically in a great spot for being level 1, we don't have any perks and our skills are really low. This makes trying to bum rush Benny a pretty stupid idea, but that is exactly what the Terminator would do. While I painstakingly kill a bunch of guys and drink enough water to cause the extinction of all the world's camels, I'm going to have an important conversation with you all that my parents never had with me. One of the members of our Discord channel, Kareem, said that his dad never had to talk with him either, so let's break it down. When one person loves or is interested in another person, they may choose to provide pleasure to another. This should always be done with consent, and the methods of pleasure are wide-ranging. It's important to not judge your partner and always have fun while also wearing protection when appropriate. In the cases of fetishes or kinks, which are essentially just preferences that bring more pleasure, communication becomes even more important. If ever you or your partner are uncomfortable, you should stop whatever you're doing and evaluate the situation with a clear head. There are numerous combinations of partners that vary in gender and preferences, so it's important to keep an open mind. While I would love to sit down with you all and talk about these individual combinations, I'm afraid I don't have enough clips of me dying to allow for that. That said, if you want to join our Discord channel, the link is in the description. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. After explaining the birds and the bees and murdering Benny, I go to the crater at Hidden Valley to get irradiated to allow for the Rad Child perk to be more effective. This perk, at deadly radiation poisoning, restores 8 HP per second. This essentially allows the player to avoid using consumables, to heal when outside of combat, and drastically increases survivability. While the Terminator doesn't have anything similar, this will help create the unkillable aspect of the T-800 that is displayed in the movies. Returning to Mr. House, I watched the presentation again. I really need a mod that skips this whole cutscene. Speaking about mods, you've probably noticed that I'm playing with a few. None of them have changed the difficulty of the game or the core mechanics, but I did use NMC's textures and immersive HUD to name a few. I get the platinum chip again, grab toughness, sell a few things to the arm merchant at 188, walk the opposite direction of what the game intended, and kill a few Viper gang members while thinking of that time that I went to Hershey's Chocolate Factory in Pennsylvania. The great brick pillars, the short ride inside that had this booming voice that kind of disorientated me at the time, and making my own candy bar. I don't remember what ingredients I put into mine, and I never got around to eating it. It's still in a metal tin, surrounded by a thin paper wrapping. It's interesting to see that we cling to possessions like our lives depend on it. Sometimes it's best to let go like Dead Money describes, but other times we'd have to let more than possessions go, like our memories of others. What is something that means a lot to you? Something so precious that you'd be devastated if anything happened to it. After making it to the Finboy capital of the Mojave, I'd take a ride on Lucius, talk with the head salad chef, make out with Mr. House for the 6th time this playthrough, and blast through the boss with pull shells and a lever action shotgun. I really picture this part being the hallway scene where the Terminator just murders a whole bunch of people in tight corridors. Yes, these are robots. Yes, I like role-playing in video games and in the bedroom. This was actually a lot of fun. It really shows that if you're prepared for the game, it isn't too difficult even on the highest settings. Because I refused to play Caravan or make money from casinos for this run, I did have to get somewhat creative when making extra caps. Grabbing the snow globes were definitely a big part. With an extra 4,000 caps, I talk with Mr. House again. He tells me of a generation created after the Second World War ended. The Boomers. Visiting Vendortron and buying some ammo, I mess around with an invisible gun for a moment before killing the gunrunner guards. Not having caps was a big issue that stopped me from getting more weaponry, so I decided to kill the people selling weapons to get the weapons. This is congruent with that scene where the T-800 just kills the attendant for the guns. I also buy a few medical supplies at the clinic before killing George and walking to the Boomers. Being able to survive the bombardment was pretty cool, so I'll take the time to talk about an automatic edger that was mentioned in the Discord. Apparently, this device acts as a plug that stops the flow when close to a climax. Also, why did that sound like I was talking about electricity there for a moment? Oh, that's right, the Big D. Killing the Boomers wasn't really too bad compared to the last few runs. I was able to kill Pearl, Raquel, Jack, and Loyal with relative ease. I also got a grenade launcher in an almost perfect condition, so that was definitely fun. More importantly than anything was being able to kill their Mr. Gutsy. Take that, you evil brother. You were a menace to society. I grabbed the snow globe from Pete's museum before once again returning to this handsome devil.
I'm in danger!
Apparently, we're back at it again with the whole Cucino business. But first, we're gonna get Daddy a new pair of sunglasses. By talking with Severus in Cottonwood Cove, you can pass a 50 explosive check while teaching him about NCR mines. This allows your reputation for the Legion to go up rather quickly. By getting a like in Legion, one can talk to Lucius in Kaisar's tent to unlock the Legion safe house. The lucky shades are the exact same glasses that we had before, but I'll be damned if they don't look better. Killing the guards at the gunrunners again, I managed to make a few extra caps before heading to Gamora and talking with a woman with rather pronounced clavicles. Pickpocketing Cucino's journal from his prison wallet, I learn about Clandon and Troik. I grab the tapes, present them to a guy who puts his milk in before his cereal, meet Troik and get him his freedom, steal some guns before blowing the rest of them up, buy some drugs from the bartenders, play some billiards with a sniper rifle, use a pool cue to kill Big Sal, and run into Clandon outside. After rewarding me with a complimentary voucher to Fisto, Mr. House tells me about a group that is living in a glory hole, the Brotherhood of Steel. Much like the Zero run we did a few weeks ago, I felt like it would be best to manually clear out the bunker. Like usual, this wasn't going to be an easy task at such a low level. After doing something that most Discord moderators don't do, showering, I stock up on pool slugs and kill a few dogs. But ultimately, I only used the Big Boomer a few times. I'm sorry for the loss of old Lady Gibson, she's in a better place though. After restocking in Good Springs, I found a new species of plants. I call them black crystals. I was going to make a joke about those girls who like crystals, but that is like half my dating pool at the moment, and I really don't want to be single for the rest of my life. On the road to Prim, I grabbed some B-roll. These mods do make everything really pretty, but I had at least 5 times as many crashes. Unless I can get all that worked out, they probably won't be returning in future videos. The start of last week's orgy allowed me to repair my lever action shotgun, so I decided to put it to good use in the bunker. While I'm able to slowly kill the paladins, it's clear that I won't be able to do this without ripping out what little bit of hair that I have left. I'm going to skip ahead here a lot to save all of you the pain of having to watch everything twice. I talked with Mr. House to see if he knew of any upgrades that I could potentially get access to. he mentioned one location in particular that might have what I was looking for: Big Empty. Some people love this DLC, others hate it. I happen to be one of the former, but I'm always in a bit of a time crunch when it comes to these videos, and I was really only here for two things: experience and cyborg parts. I skipped through some of the best dialogue in the whole game, do some trading with the sink, and finally get outside only to realize that there is no grass here for me to touch. I spent a little time walking around before putting Big Boomer to use. At this point, I had grabbed the and stay back perk, allowing me to cause enemies to fall down when using a shotgun. This isn't always perfect, but you'll see after a bit here that it really does come in clutch. Over at the human repair station place, I killed a few floating eggheads with some pulse rounds. I wish I could say that these bullets made the whole DLC easier, but honestly, some of it was pretty tricky given that you can't buy ammo in large quantities here, and everything has such a high damage threshold. On my way to whatever I was heading to next, I killed an undead version of Cheyenne. This whole DLC gives Borderlands the zombie island of Dr. Ned vibes with undead and brain-dead creatures. Fortunately, I had loaded back to a save before I ever went into Brotherhood's bunker, so I still had a crap ton of ammo. I had a really close call over at the Botanical Gardens with these Patient Zero creatures from Vault 22. They did a lot of damage and moved really quickly, so at some point I just jumped off the cliff and started booking it through the crevice that led into this ravine. I spent 30 seconds just now trying to figure out how to spell ravine, and as a Minecraft player, I find that devastating. Google Translate kept wanting it to be revenue for some reason. After doing a little bit with a shotgun, I was able to put the creatures down and spend way too long killing a plant when I should have just walked around it. I snagged up the research note for the biological research station and the sink note. That's gonna be fun for me to pronounce. It really wasn't too bad. A few lobotomites tried to kill me, but I quickly found out that I was basically bulletproof if there was only one enemy. I once again used some pulse rounds on the robots in the tower with the antenna. I love killing robots with shotguns for some reason. After getting the antenna, I just jump off the edge of the building and save scum my way down. I'm so glad saving stops momentum. Doing so allows me to completely skip over the red scorpions around the tower. It's pretty clear in the movies that the Terminator is willing to use whatever weapons are available. The T-800 walks into a gun store and asks for all these weapons from the future, but ultimately has nothing against using other types of weapons. Because of this, I end up using several different types of weapons I find here just to get by. You can hate me, but you'll never hate me more than I hate myself. I step into school and beat up a bunch of dogs who stayed up past their bedtime, and grab all 3 student reports. If you haven't played this DLC, I'd recommend it. It's a whole lot of fun when you aren't trying to rush through it. Using the terminal to get into the residential Cyberdog guard test, I managed to kill Gabe with a few hits from my giant stick. It vibrates too, in case you're curious. Find his bark without dying unlike the first time I played this DLC. Had a solid game of fetch, or tug of war, I really can't tell. And grabbed all 3 parts of the stealth suit. While I sneak through the quest that I should have done with Zero, why don't I tell you about my opinions on cake? I used to really like angel food cake. We used to have it for Christmas Eve every year on my dad's side of the family before my grandma passed away, and the whole family just kind of separated. It has a certain airiness to it that prevents you from being miserable after consumption like some cakes have the tendency to do. The icing usually isn't too rich. I suppose the cake is part of it, but at the end of the day, it really is about the people who make a difference in your life. Leveling up at the sink, I grabbed the Shotgun Surgeon perk at level 12 and talked with Dr. Klein about taking down Mobius. He basically tells me that my genitalia looks great before shoving me into a fight with a giant metal scorpion. At first, I was really worried about this fight, but I actually didn't get hit once. I just fired a bunch of pulse rounds and called it a day. For whatever reason, the smaller guys are actually more trouble. I beat Mobius over the head with the antenna, shoved my brain back into my eye socket when a medical professional should have performed the operation. Funnily enough, I am a medical professional. And killed the doctors in the think tank. This isn't too bad using the grenade launcher we got from Pearl, but that doesn't stop me from occasionally shooting myself. I stopped at Vendortron after leaving Big Mountain to get rid of a few things. Now that my torso can't be crippled, we need one more thing before tackling the Brotherhood: a riot shotgun. Because I really didn't feel like using a minigun again for this run, I wanted a better shotgun that didn't have the reload time of how fast I climax. This is both very impressive and derogatory, but I'm sticking with it anyway. If you're familiar with this game, riot shotguns are usually only found later on in the game. There are a few exceptions, one of which being Vault 34 Armory. But an often overlooked method of getting this gun earlier is in Gamora. The security guard outside of where the chips are being held always has a riot shotgun even at level 1. By buying a shady person's gun, I'm able to kill the guy, take his gun, and bolt out of the casino with the help of some turbo. Right afterwards, I accidentally fast traveled to Black Mountain, so I decided that my fate wanted me to clear it out. Between and stay back and the riot shotgun, almost nothing stood in my way. I did use a sniper rifle to deal with the sniper, but it really was a piece of cake. Shotgun builds in most Fallout games are great. I can remember relying on the combat shotgun in Fallout 3 for most of the game, and what little bit I've played of Fallout 4, it seems that shotguns are pretty powerful in that game as well. After clearing out Black Mountain and killing the final boss, Raoul, I stuck out for the battle. Primarily needing pool shells, I wait in the Legion safe house, talk to Vendortron, the vendors out the 188, and repeat. Before long, I'm ready to kill the Brotherhood without just blowing up the bunker. This wasn't an easy task, and I died several times, but I think it's fitting to talk about that time that I tried to date a girl at Walmart. She was a mildly attractive girl with the most beautiful voice you've ever heard. Large muscles and 2 bumps on her forehead. She was talking to someone, her mom as I later found out. So after a silence followed, I approached her and asked her out. Saying yes opened up a portal to a rather strange dimension for me. We will call her Helen for the purposes of this story. Helen loved fisting more than I feel comfortable mentioning. She had this glove that she'd wear on her right hand that was ribbed for extra pleasure. While doing the deed, she would often talk about her ex, Elizabeth. It was kind of hot hearing their stories and made me feel a little bit like a third wheel. Anyways, things ended up in a bit of a ball of fire with her, but I'll always remember Helen fondly. Once everything was said and done with at the substation, I went back to Hidden Valley and sold off all the gear in the bunker. This netted me enough caps to buy several implants, consumables, tons of ammo, and a repair for my shotgun. Fully ready for the battle of the greatest vacuum cleaner of all time, I talked with Mr. House. This is one of the easiest final battles that I've ever had on the channel. The Legion on the upper portion of the dam took very little doing with how powerful the and stay back and shotgun surgeon perks are. Instead, I actually chose to kill the NCR guarding the control room instead of just getting the Legion to fight the battle for me. Talking with House and pressing this absolutely massive button, I mean, look at it, it's huge, puts me in the position to fight my way through the Legates camp. It's kind of comical at this point watching them run up to me and die so quickly. Probably one of the coolest parts of the run happened when Lanius was knocked off the cliff and I jumped down after him and managed to kill him before his lackeys got to me. The general was destroyed in a similar fashion with the help of several robots, proving that yes, you can beat Fallout New Vegas as the Terminator. While this run was definitely a joke run from the start, it was rather interesting seeing all the random cyborg related perks that you can get in Fallout New Vegas. I also enjoyed revisiting old world blues, so I'll definitely try to fit more DLC in these challenge runs. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider leaving the like button more blue than the bruises on my ass the day after some heavy BDSM play. Have a good one.